Euro-American reconvergence to avoid the worst. I consider it a priority to reduce the divergence between the EU and the USA for three reasons. A. To avoid, in the short term, an inflationary/recessive crisis due to the scarcity/rise in prices of oil and gas caused by a prolonged blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, with devastating potential for Europeans, but also dangerous for the American economy. B. To avoid, in the medium term, a weakening of NATO that would be problematic for European security, but also for that of the United States. C. To rebuild a strong Euro-American convergence upon which to base, in the long term, both an extension and a structuring of a global alliance of democracies in a G7+ format, larger than that of the authoritarian regimes and therefore the source of a Nova Pax replacing the Pax Americana, but with America remaining the primary power within it. That America, despite being a military, technological, and financial superpower, is now too small to act alone as the world's policeman and economic locomotive is a fact recognized by the very language of the Trump leadership: make America great again. But the Americanist protectionist method actually keeps it small, making its unilateralist practice a reason for the progressive loss of scale of its influence. In fact, the EU is increasing the range of its customs treaties, which have strong geopolitical value, with all the democracies of the planet, and it is succeeding because these nations fear US pressure and reassure themselves by entering the Eurocentric area. But this expanding area lacks sufficient defense and conditioning capacity if America were to remain outside of it. Many analysts warn that in Washington the prevailing idea is to redeploy the residual US military power to contain and pressure China, both by removing military resources in Europe and by finding a convergence with Russia, as well as implementing the hedgehog strategy by taking dominance of the longitudinal hemisphere of the Americas. With the support of other analysts, I feel confident in saying that such a strategy will not work, just as the tariff-based strategy is leading America's allies to seek other outlets in the global market. In summary, if alone, America will succeed neither in containing China nor in detaching Russia from its alliance with it. If, instead, America were to adopt a posture of shared leadership of a G7+, it would succeed and would build a system of economic multiplication to the advantage of both itself and its allies. The Trump-led America is making a historical mistake. Are the Europeans doing the same? It is not an easy analysis, but it is much less difficult to point out that it is up to them to show rationality by maintaining, as much as possible, a Euro-American convergence useful for favoring the internal balancing of Trump's excesses in the United States. This is happening, but a left-wing protectionist Americanism like the one shown by Biden must be avoided, allowing both Democratic and Republican centrists to be able to show a friendly Europe and the advantages of an open rather than closed America. In this logic, in the short term, it would be important for a coalition of Europeans and other allies to show themselves available for engagement for a deemed and defended corridor in Hormuz that would restore transits, integrating the insufficient U.S. military capacity.